Okay, everybody, Dr. Jenkins back here. We're going to continue with our lecture, chapter on nutritional ergogenic aids. Here we go. So we're going to continue with our discussion of the ergogenic aids that affect fat metabolism. We talked about L-carnitine, which is a chemical that is used in one of the steps of converting fat into energy. L-carnitine, no benefit to performance shown through scientific studies. Let's continue on with ketones. Ketones have become such a key word and hot topic. As an endurance athlete, I see them everywhere. And I even have seen them on, I'm not on TikTok, I've never been on it. I got this from Google image search. It's advertised everywhere, no matter if you are a football player, a weight trainer, or endurance. So let's just talk about what they are. Now, as a matter of fact, we've talked about this in our lecture already. What are ketones? Ketones is a natural byproduct of fat metabolism. Ketones are a natural byproduct of fat metabolism. And what that means is, anytime we burn fat for energy, we produce ketones as a byproduct. Anytime we burn fat for energy, we produce ketones as a byproduct. Ketones themselves can be used as muscle fuel. So you're going to hear that. You're going to hear, wow, ketones is this huge, untapped energy form. Well, when we look at the science, yes, it is possible ketones can be used as fuel when glucose levels are low and not in very large amounts. And I just believe it's overblown a little bit. So it's not this huge untapped fuel reserve that we've never heard of before. We've always known that ketones themselves can be burned for energy a little bit. But there's a lot of other things that go along with it. So let's talk about it. Ketones are a natural byproduct of fat metabolism. Okay, now what I'm talking about is the ketone supplement or ergogenic aid, right? Not the ketogenic diet. That's different. You could go on a low carbohydrate keto diet, which means that over the course of days and weeks, you purposely low carb, high fat, with the idea that if I lower my carb intake and I increase my fat intake, maybe I'll burn more fat for energy and I'll produce more ketones, which could be good, is the thought process. I'm not talking about the ketogenic diet. I'm talking about the actual ergogenic aid / supplement. So what is its proposed benefit to athletes? Well, it could improve your performance. If we have this new untapped fuel source with more energy, you can do anything better. It could increase your focus. It could increase recovery. So those are the main, I picked two. Remember, you only need to know what I'm circling. So two potential benefits are, it could improve performance and it could help with recovery. Is it safe? So far, it seems reasonably safe. Some other side things, people say it does not taste good. So a lot of the companies are working to try and make it taste better, and it can be very expensive. So this Delta G 3-pack, this is what's advertised to cyclists, $90. I mean, it is everywhere now. Everywhere. People will down one right after a workout. But does it actually work? Well, here's more information about what it might improve. We talked about two things. It could help with recovery and performance. What does the research show? Well, it's kind of similar to the ketogenic diet, and it's similar to L-carnitine. When you take this, it may very well increase your blood levels of ketones. Just like L-carnitine It may increase your L-carnitine blood levels, but does it actually lead to a benefit in performance? Nope. Just because you have more in your bloodstream doesn't necessarily mean it's able to get into your muscle and to be used. Your muscle only has a certain number of receptors for a specific chemical. The steps of producing energy are already set up so well. Adding more doesn't necessarily mean we're going to improve the way that our body already does it. No matter what, for high intensity, we're always going to be using carbohydrates. One area of potential benefit might have to do with recovery. So let's keep our eyes out, right? It may boost recovery. That's the thinking now, is that it might be something with recovery. But what I want you to know is, so far, taking this right after an exercise session does not, or even before, does not improve your performance. If you were going to take this, the only one that has been shown to maybe have some improvements in recovery is monoester, that form. So just make sure you get the monoester one. Okay. Final takeaways: only potential benefit is to recovery. Less evidence to show that it actually helps with performance. Why not use diet to boost your natural ketone levels? I know I keep saying this and you're probably annoyed as all get out. Getting enough carbohydrate intake is a way to make sure that we have proper amounts of ketones and we have good recovery. Okay. All right, the last one, I think this is the last one, for fat metabolism is coenzyme Q10. So, just like we had with L-carnitine, this is something needed during fat metabolism. It's needed during a different step of fat metabolism. This is needed during fat oxidation. So what is it? It's a chemical in our body, or in food, excuse me. Yeah. Chemical needed to burn fat for energy. Similar to L-carnitine. This is particularly an enzyme complex, something that we have naturally. We have it naturally. Something we have naturally that's needed in one of those 6 steps of fat metabolism. I give you the background here, but you don't need to know that specifically. So what's the proposed mechanism of action? Well, if I have more of it, maybe I can have more energy. So in exercise, the proposed mechanism is I can have more energy and I can exercise for longer. This is going to be geared towards your aerobic or endurance athletes. Same idea as before, just a different step. Does it work? No evidence to show that it improves performance. Just because we have more doesn't mean our body can actually use it, doesn't mean that it can actually improve performance. There's another fat metabolism one. I forgot. Medium chain triglycerides. We know this from our fat chapter. What are medium chain triglycerides? Medium chain triglycerides. So we talked about different length fatty acid chains, short fatty acid chain, medium, and long. These would be considered the medium chain triglycerides. They're found naturally. What is the proposed mechanism of action? Well, if I have enough of these, I can burn more fat. And if I burn more fat, I can have more performance. I can work out for longer. Again, this is going to potentially benefit the endurance athlete. Look at the lengths these companies are willing to go to. They have scientists working for them who know all these steps of fat metabolism. And they're trying to make use of that to make money. They know L-carnitine is something needed for fat metabolism. We know, so L-carnitine, we know coenzyme Q10 are needed for fat metabolism. So if I bring in more, maybe I can burn more fat. And if I can burn more fat, knowing that fat gives us more energy per gram, I can exercise better, faster, longer. Well, now, why wouldn't we say the same thing for medium chain triglycerides? We may remember from our fat chapter of the short chain, medium chain, and long chain fatty acids. Which ones can be broken down the best and the fastest for energy? Medium chain. Well, great. If I bring in more, maybe I can produce more energy. Nope. No evidence to show that these work to improve performance. I'm getting exhausted. All right, our last category, other ergogenic aids. Let's talk about creatine. So we did our protein-based, then we did ergogenic aids that are meant to improve fat metabolism, and now we're into our category of other. So creatine. This is something that we have naturally in our body, and it's used for that first step of ATP production. So I'm going to go back to that first slide. Let's just define what creatine is. It's a natural chemical in our body, not a hormone type thing, but natural chemical in body used in first step of ATP production. So it's something we have naturally in our body, phosphocreatine. It's what we utilize in the first step of ATP production. More specifically, it's a chemical that is derived from amino acids. It is not an amino acid in itself. It is non-essential. We can make it. We already have all that we need, really. We can also get it through food. You can get it through red meat in particular and certain types of fish. I gave you some examples. On average, an adult gets about 2 grams per day. Usually that's enough. We already have enough, folks. We really do, usually. So if it's a chemical that we have, that we use during our first step of ATP production, the possible ergogenic effect is, if I bring in more, it's going to give an additional few seconds of energy, and therefore I can do a couple more reps of that of each set, or I could sprint a couple seconds longer. Think back to the beginning of this semester. That first step of ATP production produces energy for what, 10 seconds or so? So we're talking about creatine. We're talking about a chemical that is used in our first 10 seconds of energy production. This is only going to potentially benefit our strength athletes, high intensity, short duration. This is not going to benefit our endurance athletes, because endurance athletes are working out for much longer than 10 seconds. So because this is used to produce ATP in those first 10 seconds of exercise, if I bring in more, maybe I can get a couple extra seconds out of that first step. And it could make a difference. If I do 2 more reps with each set, lifting at that heavy weight, it could make a difference overall. This is anaerobic. It's only going to give us energy for a couple seconds. Research. This is something that has been shown to improve high intensity exercise. So here's one that has been shown to have some improvement in performance for those couple of seconds. Not in an aerobic athlete, not in an endurance, only in a strength athlete. Short term, it seems to be safe, and it is legal. So here's one of our few ergogenic aids that has been shown in scientific evidence and research to be somewhat effective. I'm not going to ask you about the dosage, but you can read about it. Back in the day, it used to be recommended that you would do a loading phase. Now, the current science says more of a 2 to 3 gram per day. So I just pulled up the back of this label and it says 3.5 grams. So you're up at the upper limit there. Other research sources say a maintenance dose of 3 to 10 grams per day, so we could go higher. But remember, none of these have been evaluated by the FDA. Okay. Here's some interesting things. It does seem to be more effective in men. Women have more creatine levels naturally. It's more effective in those who start with the lower creatine levels to begin with. It's more effective in vegetarians, as vegetarians tend to have lower creatine levels. If you go back, the natural source of creatine from food is meat-based. It's best if ingested with carbohydrates and, of course, water. So anybody you talk to knows that we need to have enough water. And, you can't just take this as the magic pill. If you're really paying attention, you still need to have your proper carbohydrate and protein in your post-exercise recovery window. So you can't just throw everything else out the window and expect this magic pill to blow you up like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, let's bust through these last ones. So we have chromium. Chromium is a mineral, and it is a trace mineral, which we talked about already in this class. A trace mineral is one that we need in very, very, very small amounts. So therefore, if we only need very, very small amounts of it, how effective could this really be? Well, let's talk about it. I laugh because I'm not making this up. I went to bulksupplements.com. What? 200,000 servings? Do you see that? Okay, it's interesting to me. All right. What is the proposed mechanism of action? It could enhance the effect of insulin. And we talked about insulin in the last chapter. Well, let's again try and find a way to benefit more from insulin, even though it didn't really seem to show to work before. It could, therefore, reduce protein breakdown, leaving more protein for muscle building. So the theory behind chromium is indirectly through insulin, I can build more muscle because I'm not breaking down as much. Muscle building. Does it work? No. There's been very little recent research. This seemed to have its heyday 10 years ago, but that doesn't mean that it can't come back. All right. Chromium also found in energy drinks. They are adding everything they possibly can. Can we add the list of things they're adding to energy drinks? They're adding B vitamins. Obviously, caffeine. Guarana. Caffeine-like but stronger. They're adding other stimulants like Cinefril. They're adding taurine, which is supposed to be an antioxidant. They're adding chromium. They're adding L-carnitine. Can I go on? They're adding branched-chain amino acids. They're adding other vitamins, vitamin C, calcium. They're adding sugar substitutes, sucralose. It says 0 sugar, but there's still some sugar flavoring in there. Sucralose is fake sugar. I mean, and that's a short list. They're just adding stuff. Do we use chromium for energy? No. All right, let's talk about pyruvate. This is one that I am not going to ask you on any test. I'm trying to stick to the more common ones. Pyruvate, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but it won't be on your test. Pyruvate is something that we use during fat metabolism. Oh, wait a minute. We use it during anaerobic metabolism, the first step. Again, I'm not going to ask you this. Does it work? Mixed results, but no. This is also something that had its heyday about 10 years ago. All right, I want to end this chapter by talking about pre-workout. We finally come to the part of the semester where I can talk about this. I said it last chapter and I meant it. Never heard of it before until like a month ago. People who are younger, I get it. You think it's God. It's just been made up by someone. Like I said to you before, just wait 10 years. There's going to be something else that comes along. I'm not opposed to things that might work. What did we talk about so far? Creatine. Creatine seems to potentially have a benefit, and the science backs it up. Whey protein doesn't really show in the science, but it's safe. So I'm willing to talk about that. But this, and boy, are we just getting out of control with all the things that are in it. A pre-workout. In the literature, you know what it's called? Multi-ingredient pre-workout dietary supplement, MIP. This one here, Woke AF. Boy, doesn't that name inspire scientific accuracy and validity? No. So I really went down the rabbit hole, and I looked at a bunch of pre-workouts, right? Pre-workouts contain ingredients that are both chemical and nutritional, but I wanted to wait until this chapter so you would know what I'm talking about. Of course, the most common ingredient in most pre-workouts is caffeine. Some of them will have beta-alanine, which is supposed to increase your muscle strength. Oh, creatine, let's throw that in there. Oh, citrulline malate. That's one of those vasodilators to cause pumping, which is not a physiological word I've ever heard of until last month. Oh, let's add some amino acids in there. That can increase our muscle strength and muscle mass. They throw a bunch of things in here. Not regulated. So I looked at the Woke AF. So Woke AF, I can't believe I'm saying this in my science course, AF. Of course, it's going to have caffeine. It has 333 milligrams. If you remember from our caffeine, 500 milligrams or more, above 500 is banned by the NCAA. So with this, plus your coffee, you're pretty much going to be over your limit. So you got to be careful. Proposed benefit, increase energy and focus. Beta-alanine, what's beta-alanine? Beta-alanine is an amino acid, but it's not an amino acid that's used to make muscle. We talked about leucine. Leucine is an amino acid that builds muscle, not beta-alanine. Beta-alanine is used to make something else called carnosine, which can be a buffer, an intracellular fluid buffer. They're telling you it'll increase muscle mass, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with that. Citrulline malate is our example of a vasodilator to bring more blood flow to the muscle. Taurine. Taurine is an amino acid-related compound, but it's not used in protein synthesis. They will tell you it might have some anti-inflammatory. Alpha GPC. What the heck is alpha GPC? 200 milligrams? It's a cholinergic chemical. So some say it will increase muscle contraction due to having more fuel. Some will say it also increases the release of growth hormone. So it's a cholinergic effect. It doesn't work. What is dendrobium? Dendrobium, something produced by plants, can have anti-inflammatory effects. And of course, this brand, the Bucked Up, has the deer antler velvet extract. What is that? Made from the covering of deer antlers, includes, I'm sorry, is that estrogen? Yes, it is. So that includes estrogen, huh? Supposed to lower blood pressure, help with bone growth, improve fertility. Does an athlete, particularly a male athlete, want to have estrogen? And then I did mention synephrine. Synephrine is an amphetamine-like, keeps you awake. The fancy word is a sympathomimetic. So do these actually work? Beta-alanine. Remember, beta-alanine is that amino acid that is used to make something else to act as a buffer. Does beta-alanine work? Some studies show yes, some show no. No resounding evidence. Caffeine. Caffeine can be effective, but only for our aerobic athletes. I do not know any of my marathon or Ironman friends who take pre-workout for the caffeine. They will just have a cup of coffee. People who are taking this are thinking that caffeine's going to help them with focus or performance, but we've already talked about this. It does not help strength athletes. It does not. So, nope. So far we have, it doesn't work. Citrulline malate, that's the vasodilator. Does it work? Limited evidence. Not really. Taurine. Wait a minute. Taurine is banned by the NCAA. Taurine is that thing that's supposed to have anti-inflammatory effects. Does it work? Nope. Alpha GPC, that's the cholinergic thing. Increase muscle contraction, more fuel, increase release of growth hormone. Long ago, height of research was back in the 2000s up to 2015. No significant difference in memory or performance. Nope. Dendrobium, that's the plant extract. It's been used to make products that are now banned by the FDA and no evidence. Is there any scientific evidence that deer antler velvet extract works? No. Synephrine. Synephrine is banned by the NCAA. It is a stimulant, but does it improve performance? No. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're 0 for 8 for our strength athletes. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I really worry about the safety of these things because they throw so many things in. And let's just be honest, people are not just taking the pre-workout. They're taking the creatine. They're drinking the energy drink. They're having caffeine in their diet already. Altogether, it could actually be very dangerous. The research on pre-workout. So what I showed you before was each individual ingredient. Well, what about together? Maybe there's some magic principle where together they work. No. Some studies say that it may make you feel more alert, but that was the same, in the pre-workout and caffeine only. So if you like feeling more alert, that subjective feeling of alertness, just have caffeine. Don't take this whole other thing. No improvements in resistance training. Some evidence it can help you in a cycling wind gait. That's a quick cycling performance test. But is that practical and does that carry out to real world athletics? I don't know. Some ingredients are banned. Is it safe? We don't have any data yet. It's so new. There's no long-term data. So we don't know. Does not work. Look, recent designer stimulants that are banned by the FDA. Dendrobium, banned. Banned by the FDA. Why are you bringing this in? Synephrine, also in pre-workout, banned. A lot of caffeine, banned. They even tell you, the NCAA website, supplements such as pre-workout are not regulated and thus may contain other ingredients and substances that may cause an athlete to fail a drug test. They're basically telling you, be really careful, not safe. NCAA banned substances. This is a list from an NCAA institution. Pre-workouts. This has never been a thing before. It's just the latest. I know it's everywhere. You might think it helps you. It's probably just a feeling of being a little bit more alert from the caffeine. But look at everything they throw in there, many of which is banned, all of which there's very little long-term research on safety, none of which have been shown to improve performance. So, bottom line, be careful, be skeptical. We used to think a lot of things. Take in the evidence. Just because someone says it on social media doesn't mean that it works. It is not regulated. It's basically the equivalent of some slimy salesman trying to sell you a used car for too much money that doesn't work. All right, I think I made my point. As always, just make sure you're studying specifically what I ask you to know. All right, see you next time, folks.